everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds. Tonight's topic is your first signs of spring. And of course, Mark's first signs of spring, because I bet mine might be a little bit different from you guys. And I'd love for your input. I'd love for you to comment, if you would, as to what your true first signs of spring. And knowing me, mine are going to be avian related. Some of you may say that the crocus is blooming, and poking their heads up out of the snow may be your first inspirational sign of spring. Others may be the sounds of spring peeper frogs calling for on the first warm evenings in the early spring. And I bet a whole lot of you traditionally will say the American robin is your first sign of spring. Well, if you watch me regularly, you know how often I tell you that the robins are here all winter here in the Midwest and all around the country. They're far more common in winter months than they used to be, and far more than a lot of people give them credit for. And that's because their nature is quite a bit different in the winter. Instead of being running around in your front yard and digging at worms, the American robins spend most of their winter in woodlands, eating on berries and fruit that they can find, and also sifting under leaf litter, getting hibernating insects and that are underneath there. I tell a story of many years ago, bird watching at Burr Oak Woods in the winter site here in Kansas City, and it looked like the forest floor was boiling because the leaves were all just active, and every once in a while a robin's head would poke up or jump on and then go back under. They were doing what they're supposed to do in the winter. So robins are, in some winters, we have tons of them this far north, and they don't leave. Many don't leave. There are a few do, and then we get some that come from the north. Yes. So it depends on where you're watching it from. You guys up much further to the north of us, robins returning in the spring still may be your first sign of spring, but for that doesn't work for me here, and never has here in the Kansas City region. So to look at others, well, as a bird watcher and someone who is out in the field quite a bit, the eastern Phoebe, this little guy here, is one of my first signs of spring. They're a flycatcher, and there's not a lot of flying insects in winter, of course, but it's amazing how these birds start showing up in our region. Oh, late February, mid to late February. Wouldn't be surprised if I had a report now, because we've had such warm temperatures and winds out of the south here in this last several days. We're going to approach 70 tomorrow. And then we're supposed to drop back down. But eastern Phoebes are one of my early signs of spring when I encounter those out in the wild. They're not a feeder bird. They may nest in your yard. They like to nest on windowsills and things. But eastern Phoebes are certainly one of my first signs of spring. And then I always look forward to hearing the Killdeer. They don't go very far south during the harshest part of winter here, but we always hear them in our parking lot. And of course around lakes and ponds and things like that, and cow pastures. But when I pull into work one morning and I hear the Killdeer flying around the shopping center, it makes me always immediately think spring's here. Spring is on the way. Statistically, I read many years ago that spring moves north 12 miles a day. And that's how it works. And I'm sure that's a lot to do with vegetation and greening out and things like that. But I've never forgotten that. And tree swallows, swallows are classic birds of summer for us. But tree swallows are one of the earliest arrivers. They're flying around open water lakes and whenever it's still very, very cold. And they're flying insect eaters too. So there's those early hatches of some of the midges and things that are in the water they attracts the tree swallows. Absolutely beautiful. And a really good friend of mine told me once, when I first moved here to Missouri, that she plants her tomatoes when she sees the first barn swallows. So barn swallows are one of her early signs of spring, and you knew it was time to get her tomato plants in the ground. So another wonderful bird that comes back up in the springtime and nests in our area. And then, of course, there's the famous turkey vultures. The turkey vultures, again, don't go very far south, but they will start showing back up north. And famously here in March, is when they come through. And I know where's the town in Ohio where they return every year, but the turkey vultures are a sign of spring. When you see those soaring, the warm air is blowing from the south and bringing them up. So, but of all those, those are all certain signs of spring. But I think really the two most definitive signs of spring for me, especially someone who feeds birds religiously, are, believe it or not, the common grackle, the blackbird, the one a bird that not many people really like, but I know whenever I see the common grackle at my feeder, boy, spring is definitely here, definitely on the way. They come in and poke around, and I know you guys to the south of me probably have them all winter, but for our area, when we see the grackle come in, and also the red-winged blackbirds, these are a sure sign of spring in this area. The males come in first, and this, of course, is a male, and they have that familiar conqueree call that they do. And this is one showing off. He's showing his epaulets off, and he's territory trying to establish his territory. But a call we'll get, and I just figured I'd just throw this in here since I'm mentioning red-winged blackbirds, is that you will often see this as a red-winged blackbird, and people will call me and say, I've got a yellow-winged blackbird from South America. What's he doing in my yard? No, this is not a yellow-winged blackbird. This is a red-winged blackbird. They have the ability to cover those red patches, especially when they're feeding in groups, because they're not wanting to be aggressive. And all you can see is this little thin line of yellow on their wings. So this is a red-winged blackbird. It is not a rare bird from South America or anything like that. So just something they can do. So for Mark, red-winged blackbirds and common grackle are my first signs of spring, my avian signs of spring, which is, of course, what I live by. So what's yours? If you have a different one or you agree with what I have to say, please comment in the section below. I appreciate you tuning in. It was a great idea for our program. Here we are. We're marching towards spring right now. Like I said, it's almost 70 degrees today. So I don't think we're through with winter, though. So hope you're having a great day. If you would, give us a like, give us a share. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Until then, come on, let's talk birds.